Brands. We all know the names and we love them. But how much of their story in the making do we really know? Well, we're here to tell you how those ideas have turned into icons. Welcome to the Brand Story. When it comes to travel and accommodation, one brand revolutionized the way we explore the world: Airbnb, turning the common misconception of strangers should never trust each other on its head, such that by 2023, Airbnb had successfully facilitated 1 billion stays through about 4 million hosts worldwide. Airbnb has connected the world and its people like no other. Are you ready for the Airbnb story? So it all began in 2007 when two friends, Brian Chesky and Gebbia, were struggling to make rent on their San Francisco apartment. But Joe saw an opportunity during a local design conference when hotels were fully booked, and they decided to rent out their own living space to, complete strangers. And so they created the first Airbnb.com. So they created the first Airbnb.com and invited 3 people they had never met to stay in their home: Kat, Amol, and Michael, their first 3 guests. It went off brilliantly well, and Joe and Brian had that aha moment. People said the idea would never work. Stranger danger, they said, inviting random people into your intimate space. But Joe and Brian were excited by this, and they brought on Nathan Blecharczyk as the company's first chief technology officer. And they set their sights on their next city that had a large conference. They got 2 bookings. One of them was Brian. They launched it again at a political convention in Denver, and the bookings jumped to 80. But monies were tight, and they were desperate to keep Airbnb afloat. And as a side hustle, they ran with the election fever of their time. They zoned in on the breakfast part and created limited edition presidential themed breakfast cereals named Obama's O and Captain McCain's. Well, they went on to sell $30,000 worth, and it gave them the lifeline they needed, and also got the attention of a Silicon Valley venture capitalist, Y Combinator founder Paul Graham, who, let me add, was not convinced about the whole Airbnb business model, but he was so impressed by the founders' spirit and passion. Well, as they pursued their dreams and stuck with the plan and watched their business grow, Joe and Brian learned 2 vital things. People are fundamentally good, and people are fundamentally the same 90% of the time. So, if people are good and mostly the same, then they should be able to offer more than people just sleeping in one another's homes. Airbnb began to imagine a world where everyone can belong anywhere, wherever community is welcoming, and where you can find a welcoming home anywhere in the world. In this magical world, they could be anything they want. And that's the vision that Brian Chesky, Joe Gebbia, and Nathan Blecharczyk began to aspire to. So by 2009, with a shortened name to Airbnb, they expanded beyond just rooms to apartments, houses, and vacation rentals. I mean, who would have ever thought that an idea like millions of strangers sleeping in each other's homes would ever work? But it did, and the global Airbnb tribe grew by leaps and bounds. By 2011, they had a global presence and around 1 million guests and 120,000 listings. So this was labeled the sharing economy with the promise of human connection. It gained momentum. Airbnb became like this global phenomenon. Of course, there were challenges: rowdy guests and homes trashed and unreliable hosts. But that was just a small percentage compared to the overall Airbnb user experience. For both the host and the guest, there is a system of verified profiles, user reviews, and secure payment methods to ensure safety and reliability. What I love about Airbnb is that you get an intimate and immersive experience with the host family, the city, or the town. So for example, you can stay and learn with a Michelin star host or go on a pub crawl with the locals, and there are all kinds of stays available. And the kinds of stays available, we have to share that. From a secluded treehouse in Atlanta, Georgia, to castles in France and Ireland. You can sleep in a plane or live in a windmill. Or how about a cave in Utah? Or Barbie's Malibu beach house? Airbnb has them all listed and many more. This diversity of options allowed one to personalize their experiences and, importantly, create those lasting memories. Airbnb's impact extends beyond travel. It created economic opportunities for hosts, contributed to the revitalization of neighborhoods, and the preservation of cultural heritage. Well, this platform served in disaster relief in November 2012, where hundreds of hosts opened their homes to displaced residents in the wake of devastating Hurricane Sandy in New York City for free. Support for humanitarian aid continues in Feb 2017 with their #WeAccept campaign in response to the refugee ban in the US, and later that year with Open Homes, the housing platform that goes live to the world, connecting hosts with extra space to those displaced. So successful was the brand becoming that in May 25, 2015, the White House appointed Brian as Presidential Ambassador for Global Entrepreneurship. And today, from offering restaurant reservations to travel solutions for guests, Airbnb teams up with complimentary services to ensure that the total Airbnb experience is more than just travel and stay, but about looking out for its global community of more than 150 million users. Well, bring it to the present, and Airbnb has a presence in 191 different countries and over 100,000 cities. And on average, 6 guests check into an Airbnb listing every single second. Well, Airbnb's current valuation as of August 2023 is about $83 billion, with an estimated 20+% market share of the vacation and rental industry. So Brian, Joe, and Nathan opened their home and their hearts to strangers and grew an $83 billion brand by designing a business around trust. Well, this episode of The Brand Story is shot on the 32nd floor Tower 4 One International Center, Parel, Mumbai. One International Center is powered by Nucleus Office Parks. And before we wrap up, how has the Airbnb brand story changed your perception of building brands around trust? Do share your thoughts with us in the comments down below. And that concludes the brand story for Airbnb. We hope you enjoyed it and stay tuned for more stories of iconic brands. Until next time, ciao.
94.3 Radio 1.